following program contains disturbing materials that may not be suitable for some resellers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Reselling's pretty easy, right? But when you start talking about things like sell-through rate, well, it's confusing to a lot of people, especially on how to figure it out. We're not mathematicians. We're just trying to sell our items. For the longest time, and myself included, many resellers will look at their app, maybe pull up the solds to see just a general idea of how many of a particular item has been sold. And then we'll jump over to the active listings to see how many items are currently active. And we kind of use a ballpark, right? I don't think anyone's sitting down in their car doing the math and then going over to the yard sale and saying, okay, this has a good enough sell-through rate. We're kind of doing it on the fly. And I mean, at least I hope no one's breaking out a calculator. I'm surely not, and I surely haven't. And it's sort of a rough estimation when we're trying to figure out just a rough sell-through rate. Now, let me just tell you, there's been a lot of information that's been given out by YouTubers. I mean, let's not even talk about the stuff that you see online, like Facebook groups and all that. You've been misled about sell-through rate. Many of you have, depending on who you've been watching. And I'm here to tell you, I've been misled as well over time. Now, I was sort of, without really thinking about it, believing that it was very accurate to look at your app, look at the solds, look at what's currently up for sale, to kind of work out a rough formula. You hear people saying, hey, I have a 200% sell-through rate. I've got a 500% sell-through rate item. And it's just not possible, guys. And I'm here to show you and show you, not just tell you, that that's incorrect thinking. It's just incorrect. It doesn't make sense. Now, let me tell you why the whole idea of looking at the solds and then looking at the actives, whether you're using your phone or whether you're sitting behind a computer with the calculator doing all the math, let me tell you 4 reasons why that's flawed thinking. First of all, when you're looking at the 90-day solds, okay, you are not seeing all the solds. If there's a multi-quantity listing that has sold more than one item, you're only seeing it once in most cases. If you're looking at the active listings, right? A couple problems with that. You're looking at the active listings, you don't know when those items were placed on eBay or listed on eBay within the last 90 days. In theory, you could have half of those listings just put up this last week. And there's no way to know when those items were placed. And you can bet that the entire 90 days, that number is different. So it could have been more or less at some point within the last 90 days. So it is not at all accurate when you're trying to figure out sell-through rate. Another problem is when an item sells, it goes into the solds. It doesn't stay in the active. And so when we're looking at, okay, there's 50 solds, 100 active, oh, it must be a 50% sell-through rate, but you're doing it wrong because that item that sold should be still considered in the active count. It's no longer active, but it was at one point within the last 90 days. And see, people aren't counting the solds into the active. So if there's 100 active, it really should be 150 because 50 of them have already sold and are no longer in the active column. So really it's a 33% sell-through rate because 50 out of 150 have sold, and people do not take that into account for the most part. Going back to that initial example, if you have 50 sold and 100 in the active, well, for all you know, half of those listings could have multi-quantity. You don't even know. We're assuming it's one listing, one item per listing, but it could be multiple. And we're not looking at that, and that's not being figured into the equation. So these 4 things are problematic for me. If you're using the old way, the quick way to quickly figure out if something's worth buying, keep doing that. But don't expect an accurate number doing that. You're never going to get an accurate number doing that because of those 4 things that I mentioned. Now, it is very important. People ask me, is it worth having an eBay store? And if you're even halfway serious about selling on eBay, you definitely need to have an eBay store. Now, forget the markdown sale aspect, forget the coupon aspect that I tout all the time. If you do not have an eBay store, you cannot access what was known as Terapeak, but is now known as the product research tool, and that's on both the app and in your seller hub. And for those of you who have the most updated version of eBay, you can simply go into your home screen, scroll down past your stats, go in and click on product research, and then type in your UPC number or whatever item that you want to look up. But just keep in mind that it's going to look for the exact words that you put in. So, you might want to focus on UPC or model number if you're really trying to get an accurate representation. Now, I have a quiz for you guys. What do you think the sell-through rate last 90 days for an iPhone Pro Max 15 Pro Max 512 gigabyte is? Now, I happen to have one, and I happen to have the box, and I happen to have the UPC number. I plugged that in, and it gave me a much lower number than I thought I'd see. Talking about a very high demand device, 41.46% sell-through rate, which means less than 1 out of every 2 listed gets sold on eBay and within the last 90 days. So it's not as high as we think. I mean, if you're going to sit here and tell me that, this Tupperware or whatever has a 300% sell-through rate when this iPhone 15 Pro Max 512 gig doesn't even have 50%, then it's fuzzy math. It's just bottom line fuzzy math. And we can twist the math to make ourselves feel better about what we're selling and to maybe justify what we're buying to resell. But I think the only way at this point, because eBay has all the data, some of you have the listing quality report, eBay is giving us more data. Well, if you're looking at 90 days or less on the product research tool, eBay is going to show you the accurate as far as eBay has, and they have all the data. You don't, I don't, the other eBay YouTubers don't. They have the data, and they're going to show you the accurate sell-through rate. And I'd love to know if anybody can use this tool and show me if there's anything that shows over 100% sell-through on the platform. Because again, in demand, high ASP stuff like an iPhone should have close to 100% if in theory. And that's what I was thinking. Now, there's items that have higher sell-through rate than this phone, but I'm willing to bet that you're not going to find anything that's going to be 100% or more because it doesn't exist. Now, a lot of people are going to be kind of upset at me. This is why I put the disclaimer on this. But I think we need to understand that eBay provides the sandbox. This is their sandbox. And you need to ask yourself this question. Why would eBay provide us all this data and for it to be inaccurate, badly inaccurate? Do you really think that every piece of data within eBay is incorrect? I have no reason to believe that. And I have no reason to believe that the data in product research is incorrect. It makes more sense to me than some random person saying I have a 500% sell-through rate. So I'm making this video for the most part to help you to become familiar with the product research tool and how it's going to be much faster for you and more accurate for you to go in, type in exactly what you're looking at, hit enter, have it pull up the data, and you can actually even go in and look at charts. It defaults at 90 days, but you can go further back to like 3 years. But remember, the sell-through rate data is only going to show you from 90 days in. So anything like 2 years, you're not going to see sell-through rate data for 2 years. They're just not keeping it. But when you're trying to determine if an item's worth buying, it's going to be a little bit more efficient, a lot faster, more accurate than if you're just toggling back and forth between solds and what's currently listed. And it's, of course, many years of me doing this is going to take some time to remember the product research tab. But it's going to, in the long run, save me time, and it's going to help me make better buying decisions. And I would say this, look, we ridicule eBay a lot. On the live the other day, I joked about eBay not having common sense because, in my opinion, others may have that same opinion or you may not. But when they do silly things like show our items to the buyer, show the same item to the buyer when they're checking out, and that causes customer confusion and causes them to cancel the current sale, it's not common sense to me for that to be there. And there's other examples that I'm sure you could probably put down below that eBay does. It's not even at all. There's not even a speck of common sense involved in that, yet it happens. So for me, I'm not here to try to pump up eBay at all, but I got to tell you, I would rather listen to eBay and their stats and their numbers and their methods and their sell-through rate data than any YouTuber, including myself. And there's many YouTubers that are wiser than I am, more knowledgeable than me. I wouldn't listen to them either over eBay, because eBay has the data, they have the tools, and I think there's many out there that continue to push this narrative that it is possible to have high sell-through rate items over 100%. And even though you may see 10 solds and only 2 listed, that doesn't mean that you have a 400% sell-through rate item, because you're disregarding the 10 that did sell that is no longer listed, and the other factors that I covered at the beginning of the video. So dead horse, not going to beat them anymore, but I do want you to comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. But guys, getting on board using Terapeak, or what we now know as the product research tool, getting your store, is yet another example of how flipping ain't easy. And I want you guys to have an excellent rest of your weekend, and we will talk to you very soon.